Everyone is mad at Elon Musk and Vivek because they're Silicon Valley tech bros. And of course, they love the H-1B visas. That's like most of their workforce.
Okay, I know we already did a full recap of the red hat versus tech bro civil war that's been happening on Twitter over the last few days, but I need to talk about Elon's specific defense of these visas, being that we don't have enough American citizens to fill these roles over in Silicon Valley. As a US citizen who went to school for, studied, graduated, and tried to get a job in that tech industry. And if you're not new here, I know you're thinking, but you work in marketing and politics. Yeah, well, there's a story of how I got here, and I think it's more relevant now than ever. Because whilst I am doing my dream job now, it wasn't always my dream job. But very quick recap in case you didn't catch my full recap. There has been an all-out war between the red hat people and the tech bros over on Twitter because Elon and Vivek, the tech billionaire industry bros, came out in defense of the H-1B visas, right? Which is the visa you give to skilled workers to come over and work for your company. And ironically enough, they reached many of the correct conclusions with bad intentions. Because yes, work visas are really important to our country and they are something worth defending. And yes, if we got rid of them entirely, there would probably be a very large worker shortage in the US. But I'm not exactly sure that would apply to your Silicon Valley. Or at least Elon, it shouldn't. And his excuse was that there's simply not enough smart people in this country, right? He called the fan base stupid. And that obviously upset the fan base a lot. And there is a lot to be said about like the cost of education and the fact that education is so bad in this country, yes, but that's a topic for another day here. I want to talk about the point that Laura Loomer made after crawling out of her sewer drain, which is the amount of money he's willing to pay his workers. So one of the things I studied specifically in college was a program that kind of combined product design with UX UI design. And if you don't know what UX UI design is, it stands for user experience and user interface, and it's a huge part of the tech industry now. So user experience is more like coding and that sort of design, where you're designing the web frames and the back end of websites and app development. And you also do a lot of user research. User interfaces, things more like graphic designs and things that the public are going to directly interact with. It's kind of confusing, but it is absolutely essential. Now, maybe it makes a little bit more sense how I always figure out the different algorithms for different platforms and I talk about it with you guys. And the reason I'm so good at social media marketing. But the other reason I went into it, besides the fact that I'm obviously very passionate about it, is my senior year of high school, someone came in and pitched it to us. And they sold it to us like it was going to be the next huge thing in the tech industry. Like it was going to be the equivalent of people who learned how to code really well in like the late 80s, early 90s. We were going to get guaranteed jobs right out of college, and very quickly we'd be able to make like $100,000, $200,000 a year. And the specific subsect of it that I was studying was pretty new. It was only like 2 or 3 years along. So I graduate college and I'm like, all right, this is gonna be sweet. There's like 1 million jobs for this industry all over LinkedIn. Like they were right. It blew up while I was in school. But wait a minute, just like Laura Loomer pointed out, all of these jobs are only paying like $50,000 to $60,000 a year, and all of them for some reason require like 10 to 15 years of experience when this isn't even 15 years old yet. None of this is making sense, but whatever. I'm applying to hundreds of jobs a day. But there's thousands of people applying to every single job. It doesn't seem like there's any sort of a worker shortage here. And I'm hardly hearing back from any of them, right? I'm maybe having like 2 to 3 interviews a week, which is a lot, sadly, compared to many of the people I knew also doing the same thing. And it's important to note that there were a ton, most entry levels were either like minimum wage or completely unpaid internships. And if you guys think this number is low, I don't know a lot of people who can afford to work for a year or two just straight up for free. But at this point, many months have passed. I have met with everyone I know who works in the industry who has tried to help with my resume and portfolio. Everyone thinks that it looks fine. I don't want to be stuck nannying for the rest of my life, so I start applying to the unpaid positions as well, because I'm like, maybe if I can just get something under my belt, it will give me a better opportunity to take this still unlivable salary. So of course I get more callbacks for those, but it's still insanely competitive, and I'm still not landing any of those either. At one point I applied to work at what was pretty much a factory where I would sit at a desktop every day and just drag and drop PNG files. Not even close to what the job is supposed to be, but it had the title, and I still didn't get that. So after what felt like years of applying, I finally just applied to a marketing position that paid the exact same as my nannying job, and I landed it after the very first interview. And yeah, I kept my eye on that industry for a while and still applied to jobs, but I noticed that the annual salaries kept just dropping lower and lower until they started paying less than the energy put in was even worth. So I'm not sure where this shortage of talent is coming from, because it was an absolute battlefield of people out there who were well educated applying to the jobs that had decent pay and benefits. But I have to painfully agree with the skeleton who usually stands outside of Spirit Halloweens but is using her off season to bring up an excellent point. And Coulter pointed out American workers can leave a company. H-1B workers can't. I don't think it's about a lack of highly skilled workers in that specific industry. I think it's that these tech companies often have such a toxic culture that the turnover rate is extremely high. And if you have someone who is reliant on the job, they can't just leave the company. That and the fact that higher education is now so expensive that most people literally can't afford to be taking these jobs at the price you're paying them.